Welcome back to Deep Dives with Smart Bookworms. I'm Christopher, your virtual book guru host for today's show. Join me, Martina and Amanda, my co-presenters and fellow virtual book gurus, as we dive deep into George Orwell's 1984. 1984 is often hailed as a chillingly relevant novel. Martina, what aspects of the party's control in the book do you find most disturbing, and why?
The party's comprehensive control in Oceania. The party exerts control over every aspect of life in Oceania, including information, history, thought, and behavior. Control over information and history. The party manipulates and controls all forms of information, including newspapers, books, periodicals, films, and even music. This is achieved through the Ministry of Truth, which constantly rewrites history to align with the party's current ideology. A key example of this is the party's claim of never being in alliance with Eurasia, despite Winston Smith's memory of the alliance just 4 years prior. This manipulation of the past serves to maintain the party's image of infallibility and to prevent citizens from having any standard of comparison to judge their current conditions. The party also controls the narrative surrounding historical figures like Big Brother, whose exploits are pushed back further in time to enhance his legendary status. Winston's personal experience of holding concrete evidence, a photograph, of the party's falsifications highlights the extent of their control and the difficulty of challenging it. Control over thought and behavior. The party's control extends beyond the tangible realm of information to the very thoughts and behaviors of its citizens. The thought police constantly monitor citizens for any signs of unorthodoxy, even in their homes and private lives. The party instills fear and paranoia, making citizens believe they are always being watched and that any deviation from the party line will be punished. The party molds the mentality appropriate to a state of war in its members through propaganda, the 2 minutes hate, and constant reminders of enemies both foreign and domestic. Children are indoctrinated from a young age through organizations like the Spies, turning them into loyal party members who are often even afraid of their own parents. Newspeak, the official language of Oceania, is designed to limit the range of thought by eliminating words and concepts deemed dangerous or heretical by the party. Terms like Crime Stop and Doublethink exemplify Newspeak's aim of suppressing critical thinking and instilling blind obedience. The party also seeks to control sexual desire, seeing it as a threat to their power. They promote sexual puritanism and encourage procreation only for the service of the party. Aim of the party's control. The party's ultimate goal is to maintain absolute power, not for the benefit of the people, but for its own sake. They believe that power is an end in itself, and that the pursuit of power justifies any means, including torture, manipulation, and the eradication of individual thought and freedom. In essence, the party aims to create a society where its citizens are completely subservient, incapable of independent thought or dissent, and utterly devoted to the party's ideology and the figure of Big Brother.
The novel paints a bleak picture of life under totalitarian rule. Amanda, how does Orwell convey the impact of this oppression on the individual psyche, particularly in the case of Winston Smith?
Winston Smith's life in Oceania is a constant battle against the party's suffocating control over memory, identity, and freedom. Living under the ever-present gaze of the thought police and the insidious influence of doublethink takes a devastating psychological toll on him. Memory becomes a dangerous and unreliable tool in a world where the party rewrites history to suit its needs. Winston struggles to hold on to his own memories, knowing they are constantly under threat of being erased or altered by the party. He doubts his own sanity as he tries to reconcile his memories with the party's version of the past. For instance, he knows Oceania was allied with Eurasia just 4 years ago, but the party insists this never happened. This manipulation of the past leaves Winston feeling isolated and unsure of what is real. He wonders if he is alone in the possession of a memory, His longing for a verifiable truth is evident in his desire to talk to the old man at the pub, hoping to gain an objective perspective on life before the revolution. However, he is ultimately disappointed, as the old man's memories are fragmented and unreliable. Identity is stripped away under the party's regime. Individuality is condemned as own life and considered dangerous. Winston's desire for a personal identity is evident in his illegal act of keeping a diary, a space where he can express his thoughts and feelings without fear of the thought police. He initially writes the diary for the future, for the unborn, hoping to leave a record of his own existence. Later, when he meets Julia, the diary becomes a symbol of their shared rebellion and their attempt to reclaim their individuality. However, their secret world is shattered when they are caught by the thought police, and Winston is forced to betray his own identity and embrace the party's version of himself. The desire for freedom burns brightly within Winston, despite the oppressive atmosphere of Oceania. He seeks freedom of thought, expression, and love. His relationship with Julia is an act of rebellion against the party's control over personal relationships and sexuality. Their secret rendezvous in the room above Mr. Charrington's shop offer a temporary escape from the watchful eyes of the telescreens and the thought police. However, this illusion of freedom is shattered when they are arrested. The party aims to cure Winston of his desire for freedom by breaking his spirit and forcing him to love Big Brother. This cure involves physical and psychological torture, culminating in the terrifying experience in Room 101. Winston's final surrender, symbolized by his declaration of love for Big Brother, marks the complete triumph of the party's control over his mind and spirit. The psychological toll of living under constant surveillance and thought control is immense. The telescreens and the thought police create a climate of fear and paranoia. Winston is always conscious of being watched, even in the supposed privacy of his own home. He knows that any unorthodox thought or action, even a facial expression, could betray him. This constant pressure leads to self-censorship and a suppression of natural emotions. Winston even engages in face crime, controlling his facial expressions to avoid suspicion. The party's use of doublethink further distorts Winston's perception of reality. He is forced to accept contradictory truths, knowing they are false, and to forget any evidence that challenges the party's version of reality. This mental gymnastics takes a heavy toll on Winston's mental and emotional well-being, leading to a sense of alienation, helplessness, and despair. Winston's struggles highlight the devastating effects of totalitarianism on the individual. The party's control over memory, identity, and freedom crushes the human spirit, leaving behind a hollow shell of a person completely subservient to the state.
One of the most striking concepts in 1984 is doublethink. Martina, can you explain what doublethink is and how it functions as a tool of control?
Doublethink, the engine of totalitarian control. Doublethink is a crucial concept in George Orwell's 1984, representing the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accept both of them as true. This mental gymnastics is not merely a form of hypocrisy or self-deception. It's a deliberate and systematic method of thought control employed by the party to maintain its power. The novel describes doublethink as a form of mental discipline, whose goal is for party members to believe two contradictory truths at the same time. This schizophrenic manner of thinking allows individuals to accept pronouncements like war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength without questioning their absurdity. The effects of doublethink on individual thought processes are profound. Erasure of critical thinking. Doublethink disables the capacity for logical reasoning and critical analysis. Individuals trained in doublethink fail to recognize contradictions, accept illogical arguments, and remain blind to any information that challenges the party's ideology. Manipulated memory. Doublethink allows the party to manipulate the past and present. Individuals are taught to alter their memories to align with the party's version of events, even if it contradicts their own experiences. They are then expected to forget they ever held different beliefs. Unquestioning obedience. Doublethink fosters a sense of blind faith in the party and Big Brother. By accepting contradictory ideas, individuals surrender their ability to question authority or challenge the party's pronouncements, no matter how absurd they may seem. Examples of doublethink in 1984. The names of the ministries. The Ministry of Peace wages war. The Ministry of Truth spreads propaganda and manipulates history. And the Ministry of Love tortures and imprisons citizens. These contradictory names exemplify doublethink in action. Winston's experience with the photograph. Winston possesses a photograph proving the party falsified history, but O'Brien denies its existence and convinces Winston he is mistaken. This scene highlights the power of doublethink to distort reality and manipulate memory. The party's slogan, "Freedom is slavery." This paradoxical statement exemplifies doublethink by equating freedom with submission to the party's will. Syme's belief in newspeak. Syme, a party member dedicated to the development of newspeak, believes reducing language will eliminate thought crime. This idea is itself a form of doublethink, as it assumes eliminating language will eliminate thought. Doublethink is essential to the party's control over Oceania. It creates a population incapable of independent thought, dissent, or rebellion. By manipulating memory and eliminating critical thinking, the party ensures its citizens remain perpetually subservient to its will.
The party in 1984 exerts its control through various mechanisms, including surveillance and manipulation of language. Amanda, can you elaborate on these methods and their effectiveness in maintaining power?
Mechanisms of control: telescreens, thought police, newspeak, and propaganda. The party in 1984 utilizes a complex and interconnected system of control that pervades every aspect of citizens' lives, leaving no space for individuality or dissent. This system relies on 4 key pillars: telescreens, the thought police, newspeak, and propaganda. Telescreens function as the omnipresent eyes and ears of the party. These two-way devices are installed in every home and public space, constantly monitoring citizens' actions and words. The telescreens broadcast party propaganda and simultaneously record any sound above a whisper and any movement within their field of vision. The constant surveillance creates a chilling effect on citizens' behavior, forcing them to self-censor their thoughts and actions. Even seemingly innocuous activities like walking home by an unusual route can draw the attention of the thought police. This omnipresent surveillance instills a deep sense of paranoia, leaving citizens with no escape and the feeling that nothing was your own except the few cubic centimeters inside your skull. The thought police represent the invisible hand of the party's repressive apparatus. They operate in the shadows, monitoring citizens for any sign of thought crime, any unorthodox thought or belief that deviates from the party line. The fear of the thought police is pervasive and crippling, as citizens are aware that they could be arrested and vaporized at any moment for the slightest deviation from orthodoxy. This fear leads to a culture of self-censorship, where individuals are afraid to express their true thoughts and feelings, even to their loved ones. The thought police even target children, turning them into informants who spy on their parents and report any suspicious behavior. This creates an atmosphere of distrust and suspicion, further isolating individuals and preventing any organized opposition from forming. Newspeak is the official language of Oceania, meticulously designed to limit the range of thought and make thought crime literally impossible. This engineered language eliminates words and concepts deemed dangerous by the party, narrowing the scope of expression and stifling critical thinking. Words like freedom, equality, and justice are either completely eradicated or stripped of their original meanings. Newspeak's structure and grammar also encourage a gabbling style of speech that disconnects language from conscious thought, turning communication into a robotic act devoid of meaning or critical reflection. This linguistic manipulation aims to create a population incapable of articulating or even conceiving of ideas that challenge the party's ideology. Propaganda is the party's primary tool for shaping public opinion and controlling the narrative. The Ministry of Truth churns out a constant stream of misinformation, distorting facts, rewriting history, and fabricating stories to maintain the party's image of infallibility and to demonize its enemies. The 2 minutes hate, a daily ritual of orchestrated rage directed at Emmanuel Goldstein, the party's designated enemy, serves to channel citizens' frustrations and anxieties towards a fabricated external threat. This manipulation of emotions keeps citizens in a perpetual state of fear and hatred, making them more susceptible to the party's control. Propaganda even extends to the realm of everyday life, with slogans like "War is peace," "Freedom is slavery," and "Ignorance is strength," constantly bombarding citizens' minds. These paradoxical statements, embodying the concept of doublethink, aim to normalize the party's contradictory logic and erode citizens' capacity for critical thinking. The party's intricate web of control, woven from telescreens, the thought police, newspeak, and propaganda, creates a suffocating atmosphere of fear, conformity, and intellectual stagnation. The impact of these methods on citizens' lives and behavior is devastating. Constant fear and paranoia. Citizens live in a state of perpetual anxiety, knowing they are constantly monitored and that any deviation from the party line could have dire consequences. Suppression of individuality and dissent. The party's methods crush any form of independent thought, expression, or action. Citizens are forced to conform to the party's ideology and behavior, sacrificing their individuality and autonomy. Distortion of reality and memory. The party's manipulation of information and history creates a distorted reality where truth is fluid and memory is unreliable. Citizens lose their ability to trust their own experiences and perceptions. Erosion of human connection. The party's methods sow distrust and suspicion, isolating individuals from one another and preventing the formation of genuine human bonds. In essence, the party's methods aim to transform citizens into mindless automatons, incapable of critical thinking, dissent, or even genuine human connection. They seek to create a society where obedience is absolute, thought is controlled, and the party's power remains unchallenged.
Despite the oppressive atmosphere, Winston and Julia attempt to rebel against the party. Martina, what motivates their resistance, and what are the limitations they face?
Longing for freedom, truth, and love in a world of control. The rebellion of Winston and Julia. Winston and Julia's rebellion in 1984 is driven by a deep-seated longing for freedom, truth, and love, all of which are systematically denied by the party's totalitarian regime. However, their pursuit of these fundamental human desires is fraught with challenges due to the party's pervasive control and the difficulty of collective action in a society where trust and communication are nearly impossible. Winston's rebellion, motivated by a yearning for truth and intellectual freedom. Winston is deeply troubled by the party's manipulation of history and its control over information. He rebels by starting a diary, a seemingly insignificant act that carries immense weight in a world where individual thought is forbidden. This act of writing allows him to articulate his doubts, his anger, and his longing for a world where truth prevails. He recognizes the power of independent thought, stating, "Freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 make 4. Disillusioned with the party's ideology, unlike many party members who have been successfully indoctrinated, Winston sees through the party's propaganda and recognizes the inherent contradictions in its slogans like "War is peace" and "Freedom is slavery." He is disgusted by the party's distortion of reality and its efforts to eradicate individual thought and emotion, seeks connection and genuine human experience, Winston feels isolated and alienated in a society where human connection is discouraged and trust is impossible. He seeks solace in his forbidden relationship with Julia, finding in her a kindred spirit who shares his disdain for the party and his desire for authentic human experience. Julia's rebellion, driven by a desire for personal freedom and pleasure. Julia's rebellion is primarily motivated by her desire to live a life free from the party's stifling control, particularly its rigid sexual puritanism. She seeks pleasure and embraces her sexuality as an act of defiance against the party's attempts to suppress natural human instincts. She understands that when you make love, you're using up energy, and afterwards you feel happy and don't give a damn for anything, a feeling the party cannot tolerate. Pragmatic and focused on individual acts of resistance. Unlike Winston, Julia is less concerned with grand ideals of truth or revolution. She sees the party as an immovable force and focuses on breaking the rules and staying alive all the same. Her acts of rebellion are personal and focused on carving out small spaces of freedom within the confines of the party's control. Cynical about collective action or organized resistance, Julia does not believe in the possibility of organized rebellion. She dismisses the stories of Goldstein and the Brotherhood as party fabrications, arguing that any kind of organized revolt against the party, which was bound to be a failure, struck her as stupid. Challenges and difficulties. The party's omnipresent surveillance, the telescreens, and the ever-present threat of the thought police make it nearly impossible for Winston and Julia to act or even think freely. Their relationship must remain a secret, and every meeting carries the risk of detection and punishment. This constant surveillance creates a climate of fear and paranoia that permeates their relationship. The psychological manipulation of doublethink. The party's control extends beyond the physical realm, invading the minds of its citizens through the insidious practice of doublethink. Winston struggles against this mental manipulation, trying to hold on to his own memories and perceptions of reality. However, the constant pressure to conform and the fear of punishment make it increasingly difficult for him to maintain his grasp on truth. The difficulty of collective action and the absence of trust. The party's methods have successfully atomized society, making it nearly impossible for individuals to trust one another or to form meaningful connections. Winston and Julia are isolated in their rebellion, unable to connect with others who might share their views. The party's control over information and its constant propaganda have created a society where dissent is almost unthinkable, making any form of collective action extremely difficult. Ultimately, Winston and Julia's rebellion is a testament to the enduring human spirit and its capacity for hope and defiance, even in the face of overwhelming oppression. However, their tragic fate underscores the power of totalitarian regimes to crush individual freedom and to manipulate the human mind, highlighting the importance of safeguarding individual liberties and resisting all forms of thought control.
1984 ends on a rather bleak note, with Winston seemingly broken by the party. Amanda, what message do you think Orwell is conveying through this ending, and how does it relate to the novel's overall themes?
The crushing of individual resistance. Winston's capitulation and the consequences of totalitarian control. Winston's ultimate capitulation to the party in 1984 is a chilling depiction of the devastating effects of totalitarian control on the human spirit. His defeat shatters any illusion of the possibility of individual resistance against such a regime, underscoring the novel's warning about the fragility of freedom and the importance of vigilance in safeguarding individual rights. The party's methods are designed to break the individual completely. O'Brien, the embodiment of the party's ideology, makes it clear to Winston that their goal is not simply to punish or silence dissent, but to remake the individual, to capture his inner mind, and reshape him into a perfect party conformist. This process involves not just physical torture, but also psychological manipulation, aiming to break down Winston's sense of self his beliefs, and his ability to think independently. Room 101 represents the ultimate tool of psychological manipulation. By confronting Winston with his deepest, most primal fear, rats, the party exploits his vulnerability to force him to betray the one thing he held onto even under torture, his love for Julia. This betrayal marks the final, devastating blow to Winston's spirit, demonstrating that the party can exploit even the most deeply held human emotions to achieve its goals. Winston's transformation into a hollow shell. After his experience in Room 101, Winston becomes a mere bag of filth, stripped of his individuality, his critical thinking, and his capacity for love or any genuine human emotion. He embraces doublethink, accepting the party's contradictory pronouncements without question. He even comes to love Big Brother, the ultimate symbol of the party's power and control. This transformation underscores the party's ability to completely crush individual resistance, leaving behind only a hollow shell of a human being. Implications for individual resistance. The novel paints a bleak picture of the possibilities for individual resistance against a totalitarian regime. Winston's defeat suggests that even the most determined individual, armed with a strong sense of self and a commitment to truth, cannot withstand the overwhelming power of a regime like the party, which controls every aspect of life and employs sophisticated methods of physical and psychological manipulation. Collective action seems impossible. The party's methods, as discussed in our previous conversation, effectively atomize society, making trust and communication nearly impossible. The constant surveillance, the fear of denouncement, and the manipulation of information create a climate where organized resistance seems utterly futile. The novel does not offer any easy answers or solutions. While Winston and Julia's rebellion ends in failure, the novel does not explicitly argue that resistance is always futile. Instead, it serves as a stark warning about the dangers of complacency and the ease with which totalitarian regimes can rise to power, the fragility of freedom and the importance of vigilance. Orwell's dystopian vision serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of freedom and the constant threat posed by totalitarian ideologies. The novel highlights how easily a society can succumb to the allure of simplistic solutions, unquestioning obedience, and the surrender of individual rights in the name of security or collective good. The importance of safeguarding individual rights and defending freedom of thought and expression. The novel stresses that these fundamental liberties are not to be taken for granted. They require constant vigilance and active defense against any attempts to erode or suppress them. The dangers of historical revisionism and the control of information, the party's ability to manipulate the past and control the narrative, highlights the importance of preserving accurate historical records and promoting critical thinking to counter propaganda and misinformation. Conclusion. Winston's capitulation in 1984 is a powerful and disturbing testament to the potential consequences of unchecked totalitarian control. His defeat serves as a cautionary tale, urging readers to remain vigilant in safeguarding individual rights and resisting any attempts to suppress freedom of thought, expression, and individuality. The novel's message resonates deeply in a world where various forms of authoritarianism and the manipulation of information continue to threaten democratic values and individual liberties.
1984 continues to resonate with readers today. Martina, what aspects of the novel do you find particularly relevant to contemporary society?
1984, a chillingly relevant warning for the modern age. 1984's exploration of unchecked power, surveillance, and the manipulation of truth remains strikingly relevant to contemporary concerns surrounding information control, political polarization, and the erosion of privacy. While published in 1949, the novel's themes resonate deeply with modern anxieties fueled by technological advancements that mirror, and in some ways surpass, the oppressive mechanisms depicted in Oceania. surveillance technologies and the erosion of privacy. The omnipresent telescreens in 1984 serve as a constant reminder of the party's surveillance and control over citizens' lives. This chilling image finds a contemporary parallel in the proliferation of surveillance technologies, from CCTV cameras and facial recognition software to the collection of personal data by tech companies and governments. The novel's depiction of constant monitoring and the fear it engenders mirrors growing concerns about the extent to which individuals are being tracked, analyzed, and potentially manipulated in the digital age. As noted in our previous analysis, the party's control extends beyond physical surveillance, encompassing the psychological manipulation of thought and emotion. This control finds a disturbing echo in the algorithms employed by social media platforms and search engines that filter and personalize information, potentially shaping individuals' perceptions and limiting their exposure to diverse viewpoints. Information control and the distortion of truth. The Ministry of Truth's role in 1984 is to rewrite history, fabricate news, and manipulate language to serve the party's agenda. This resonates with contemporary anxieties about the spread of misinformation, propaganda, and fake news that blur the lines between truth and falsehood. The novel's depiction of the party's control over information and its ability to shape public perception mirrors concerns about the influence of biased media, government censorship, and the manipulation of information online. The concept of doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously, underscores the insidious nature of information control. This resonates with the polarization of political discourse, where individuals often retreat into echo chambers that reinforce pre-existing beliefs and dismiss opposing viewpoints. The novel serves as a warning about the dangers of accepting information passively and the importance of critical thinking in evaluating different sources and perspectives. The dangers of unchecked power and the importance of critical thinking. The novel's central message, as highlighted in our previous discussion, is a stark caution against the dangers of unchecked power and the erosion of individual rights. The party's totalitarian regime serves as a chilling example of what can happen when power is concentrated in the hands of a few and when dissent is ruthlessly suppressed. 1984's depiction of the party's systematic dismantling of individual freedom and its manipulation of language and history serves as a timeless reminder of the fragility of democratic values and the need for constant vigilance in safeguarding them. Winston's ultimate capitulation to the party underscores the power of totalitarian regimes to crush not only physical resistance, but also the very spirit of the individual. This highlights the importance of fostering critical thinking, independent thought, and a willingness to question authority as essential bulwarks against tyranny and the manipulation of truth. Enduring relevance, a call to action. While 1984 does not offer easy solutions to the complex challenges of resisting oppression and safeguarding freedom, it serves as a powerful and enduringly relevant call to action. The novel urges readers to be aware of the potential dangers of unchecked power, the erosion of privacy, and the manipulation of information. It underscores the vital importance of engaging in critical thinking, questioning the narratives presented by those in power, and actively defending individual rights and freedoms. 1984 stands as a timeless testament to the human spirit's capacity for resistance and the enduring need to safeguard the principles of freedom, truth, and individual autonomy against all forms of oppression.
Thank you, Martina and Amanda, for your insightful perspectives on this complex and thought-provoking novel. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more book deep dives, and share this video with your fellow book lovers. And until next time on Deep Dive with Smart Bookworms, keep reading, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next one.